Good
We
morning.
are live at 5, but it's not 5.
It's 5 in the western states, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, we'll give everybody a moment to hop on. Looks like it is on Facebook now, so we are good there. Let's check Twitter. We are live on Twitter and YouTube. We are live on YouTube. Okay, guys, be sure to tag a friend, like, share. This will be the first of what will probably be several live streams throughout the day because I do think that there is an increasing threat for some very large hail across the Ohio Valley this afternoon and evening, and probably a couple of tornadoes, maybe a strong tornado or two.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. A lot of questions coming in. We will absolutely get to your questions kind of as we, after we go through the update. Um, we'll let some folks get dialed in here and get logged in. Yeah, real quick. As you all know, or at least as I'm sure that you've heard, we are putting on a 5K Sunday, June 2nd, um, calling it the Storm Cancer 5K. You've probably seen it in some news articles on Facebook, but it is a program or an event that is, we're donating all the proceeds to childhood brain cancer research. And so we would love for you to check out ways to participate, run in the 5K, donate to it as part of our live coverage here today and everything we're talking about. Our ask is that you support that foundation, donate to it, sponsor it, run in the 5K, share it. I don't know, do something. Press the share button, and yeah. So Brett,
Yeah,
you want me to start?
go for it. Yeah, tell me what you're seeing out in Illinois because this is the first wave and the one that we were a little, hesitant or skeptical about how long it would stay around yesterday and ultimately what the impacts of it would be for the afternoon. But I think we're starting to get some clarity. Keyword there, clarity on
Ooh,
that
that's
as
fun.
as it starts to approach. It's moving in pretty quick.
It is moving in quick. It's moving east at about 50 miles per hour. In fact, we do have a nowcast graphic out that we have issued to our customers who can get this when they sign up for clarity. But this is what that nowcast looks like that we sent out just a short while ago. Like I said, moving at a good clip here on the state line by about 9 a.m. Lafayette to west side of Bloomington about 10 a.m. Right through the Indy metro area, Kokomo, approaching Louisville area around 11 a.m. And it will rapidly move out of here. And so the big question today is the destabilization or the atmosphere essentially recovering and becoming capable of producing severe weather this evening. And right now, we really don't have a reason to believe that won't happen. Based on how quickly this line is moving through and the rapid clearing and the dry slot in the upper levels of the atmosphere working in behind that. I'll be able to illustrate that here for you on the latest satellite imagery. We are watching that clearing out there across East Iowa and Eastern Missouri. And there is the tab, sorry. And that clearing, that clearing working in at about a pace of about 55 miles per hour. It's about 300 miles away. I think that clearing is here by 12:30 or 1 o'clock today, and the sunshine breaks out.
Mhm.
Once that starts to happen, all of our high res model data, well, most of our data for the most part is getting temperatures into the lower 80s very quickly. And it is allowing for destabilization to occur uh, very quick with that in mind. Now, I do want to show you the mid-level water vapor imagery. That is the dry slot I'm talking about. That's the back edge there. That once that reaches the state line, you can see just how quickly it's moving. Um, it will allow for the atmosphere to recover again very quickly we think, and bring in the risk for some stronger storms here. So what I want to show you real quickly is, in fact, I'll go over, let's go over to
Real quick note on that water vapor imagery that you were showing.
Yeah.
That dry pocket that is surging in behind where the storms are right now is key. You wouldn't think that dry air would actually increase the severe weather threat, but it's dry air aloft. And that dry air aloft will ultimately lead to what we call evaporation and evaporative cooling, and help prevent hailstones from melting as they fall through the cloud as storms develop this afternoon and evening. It's why we're concerned about a very large hail threat with this system.
Yep, I agree. Latest computer model guidance coming in. We kind of look at these new runs every hour they come in. This is the HRRR model. Shows the redevelopment of thunderstorms by about 3 o'clock today. We'll kind of continue to watch this come in and look at a little bit more of that as that comes in here throughout the live stream. But I'll show you primarily right now where the primary risk for severe weather is today is right here across the Ohio Valley. And again, I'm going to turn this off so you guys, it's not clouding your view here. I will share that tab. This is through the Clarity product, but this is where the risk is. We have a marginal risk across Illinois, a slight risk in the yellow, and then the orange is the enhanced risk, which is locally where we think the highest risk for severe weather would be. In particular, tornadoes, and possibly some strong tornadoes, where you see these hatched lines. This is the risk for at least significant tornadoes. And I will say, I do think that there's an area that could possibly even be a little bit more concentrated on than this one. I want to pull this in real quick if I can. I should have done this sooner, and kind of give you an idea on what I'm talking about here. This is a look at a day one tornado probability forecast, but I was looking at things earlier, and I was looking at the dew points, the overall energy, and where things are lining up. And I think you could even kind of localize this a little bit more. Not necessarily this particular image, but you can kind of see a little bit more of a concentrated area. I do have an image I want to show you where I think there's an area that maybe could use a little bit more attention in terms of a tornado risk this evening. And I'll try to illustrate that here. Let's see if there we go. Where the dew point temperatures are really nearing 70 degrees, and it's an aggressive forecast, and the energy is sufficient along the boundary in between, where the air has been able to destabilize rather quickly. I think right across central Indiana, southwestern Ohio, northern Kentucky, to me makes a lot of sense for a locally enhanced tornado and large hail risk with some of these supercell storms. Brett, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. And I think one thing to note too is, across eastern Indiana and western Ohio, like you had circled there, that particular area will have a little bit more afternoon heating before the storms redevelop. And so, if you're in eastern Illinois and maybe far southwestern Indiana, still some storms, no doubt about it, but maybe a little bit less time with the heat of the day, so to speak, of prime heating that you're going to have to restabilize things. And so I do think the further east you go in Indiana, and then even I saw on some of the latest data some reinitiation, some additional storms across southeast Indiana this evening. That is an area that I definitely am most concerned about, just because you just have more time to destabilize the atmosphere, and the more that can happen, the more severe the storms can be.
Yeah, I've got a few people asking here, and I want to see if I can share this, make sure this pops up. Can you see my Omega?
Yes. Yep.
Perfect. So this is kind of this is the enhanced risk, but I wanted to pull something up that I could draw on. And so what I'm kind of thinking is probably from Muncie to Indy to Bloomington over towards Louisville,
Hmm.
Cincinnati, the Columbus area, and kind of back in through here. So my thought process was this area in here wouldn't shock me to see perhaps a local 15% upgrade for a significant tornado this afternoon. And again, that is based on the idea of the dew points, the instability, a little bit longer time for destabilization in any of these storms that can remain discrete or single cellular like, if you will, without going linear. I think can produce tornadoes relatively easy there. So that's kind of the area, in my opinion, right now, at least to watch um, for the best potential tonight for tornadoes. And now the timeline here, I want to make sure you all are making sense of the timeline. And I'm going to turn this off just because it's kind of busy. I think right now the timeline um, is probably you're looking at probably here starting at around 3 p.m. And then it's kind of working its way this way. Storms on the doorstep by 4, and then kind of making its way. This is very, very plain and simple for you. I'm not trying to make this fancy. And then 5 p.m. here. Now, as Brett mentioned, there can be possibly here's 3, 4, 5 p.m. Eastern time. There can possibly be a second redeveloping tailing area of storms closer to that. What would you say, 7 to 9, Brett?
Yeah, kind of in that time frame there. Yep.
Yeah, 7 to 9 p.m. as the cells move out ahead, and then perhaps a tailing line can develop here in the southeastern portion of the state, 7 to 9 p.m. this evening. So just trying to make that as simple for you as possible in terms of timing and whatnot to understand the threats for tonight.
Yeah, and I know we've had some people asking about school and letting out. You know, I think for the most part, okay. I think the bigger issue is after school activities. You know, track meets, golf tournaments, baseball, whatever's going on this time of the year. That's I think a little bit more of the concern would be after school athletic activities, practices, and whatnot, rather than school letting out. You know itself. Maybe far eastern Illinois, western Indiana. You could be pushing it in terms of buses letting kids out, but I think in terms of during the school day, it's mainly going to be after that.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree.
And
Um,
I
Go
want to
ahead.
add real quick, Michael, the hail threat too, because I know we talked a lot about tornadoes, but
Mhm.
the hail threat is something that has my attention. And I'm going to pull up here and I'll share my screen. Let me turn off my storm motion here. But I think that if we go over here and let me know if you can see this. So this is our clarity. Here's the hail threat, and I would even add here that there could be an upgrade to a 30% hatched hail area, really in the same type of region that we were talking about for tornadoes from Indianapolis to Bloomington to Louisville, and then all the way out towards Columbus, Ohio, kind of in this particular region here. So I think the hailstones could be potentially, inch and a half, 2 inches plus. It's not impossible on a day like this.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Um, I'll tell you, you don't really get big hail around here normally. I mean, yeah, we get some hail. Um, it's not often at all that you get 2 inch hail or something like that. I think it's important to note that the setup is ripe for that. I mean, with the dry air intrusion coming in and the cold air aloft, we were kind of talking earlier, Brett, about um, how cold um, the area is for hail
Mhm.
development and the amount of energy in that. If you want, I tell you what, if you could maybe pull up a sounding and just kind of describe that real quick. As
Yeah,
that's
so
definitely
let me pull up. Let me go back. This was I think the 10ZH triple R. So let me just click around here. Okay. So, a couple of things that I'm noticing with this profile. So basically, the red line, this takes you all the way up through the atmosphere, as far as you can see up into the sky. And this red line is temperatures, and the green line is dew point, which is going to be your moisture. And so, in general, the higher the dew point, the more humid the atmosphere is. So you can think about a very, very humid day. You don't normally get that cool relief from evaporation of sweat off of your arms. Um, Same type of situation in terms of if it's a very dry day, there's not a lot of moisture, you're able to evaporate more. It's typically feels a little bit more pleasant. And so in this case, it's going to be very humid here at the surface. But if you go up into the atmosphere 4, 5, 6 kilometers up, the air is extremely dry, very, very dry, in fact. And if you look at this little dash line, that's basically indicating our instability. And look at how there's a bigger gap in where our instability line is and where the temperature line is way up in the atmosphere where this dry layer is. That means we're getting a lot of upward motion where it is very cold and dry in the atmosphere, which means that when hailstones develop, they are going to have the tendency to not want to melt and to grow very strong. They're going to be able to sustain themselves up in the cloud a little bit longer. And so it's kind of that combination that can ultimately lead to large hailstones around here. The only thing I'd like to see a little bit more of is just this temperature line decreasing a little bit more with height. I'd like to see the freezing level a little bit lower in the atmosphere. But aside from that, this is a favorable profile for large hail. And this one in particular, tornadoes too. Look at the photograph here. Look how it's curved. The more curve you get, the more circular that this gets, almost like a half circle, the higher the tornado threat is.
Yeah. Great explanation there of, the science behind, forecasting hail and that type of thing. It's again, it's not easy, and there's a lot to it. It's not just, hey, we think there's going to be hail. There's a lot that to analyze. So, Bob says, what is the main concern? Tornadoes or hail or both about the same? I think in this instance today, probably the same risk threat level. I think it's more likely to see hail versus tornadoes, in terms of like the number of events, if you will. There's probably more hail reports than there are tornado reports naturally, but the risk level is the same for significant ones, if you will.
Yep. Oh, I would agree. I think more hail reports, less tornado reports, but obviously tornadoes can be more destructive. Hail can certainly be destructive as well, but obviously in terms of threat to property and livelihood, lives, tornadoes is always a bigger threat.
We've got a comment here that says tomorrow night's still looking bad. I want to make sure, guys, that we'll address this later. Right now, there's certainly a risk for severe weather again tomorrow night, but we will get to that later. We're talking about tonight right now with this first threat. So another question is, and this I do want to show this because what size tornadoes do you think we could see? I know it's unpredictable, but is there a science to show if the atmosphere is primed? There is data, which is why we have the map that what we call the hatched area on the weather maps, that show significant. That means significant tornadoes possible, which is EF. Is it EF3 or stronger, or EF2 or stronger?
EF2 or stronger.
Yeah, EF2 or stronger in the areas where you have these hatched lines, and that's just the atmosphere indicating that yes, the ingredients are there for strong tornadoes. Other than that, no, there's no way to predict the strength, the intensity of a tornado, other than just knowing there could be strong ones in this area. So, great question, and one that is relevant today for sure. Let's see. Nancy says, both of you do a great job. Thank you. It's very nice of you. Should be interesting.
The new HRRR that came in, it's interesting because it has a little bit of convection kind of out ahead of the stronger storms, but it's a little bit later with the stronger storms, and so it allows the atmosphere to destabilize a little bit more. The significant tornado parameter, which is certainly not the be all end all, is very amped up though on this new run of the HRRR around 5 or 6 p.m. Across southern and central Indiana and into western Ohio, northern Kentucky too.
Yeah, let's show them what we're talking about. I do see. I do see what you're talking about here. Let me share my screen. So what Brett's talking about is the latest run of the HRRR. This model runs every hour, and this is what's called the significant tornado parameter. And really, any values over 4 or 5 are pretty respectable. By 7 o'clock tonight, this really certainly an alarming forecast image here. Honestly,
it is.
That's an interesting projection there by the model, showing a couple of longer track supercells there as the model's still coming in. And again, I do think that with the clearing that is possible, or at least seems to be likely evolving right now, that we do certainly want to keep in mind that tonight could get pretty rowdy. Most likely, probably a tornado watch this evening across the area. What do we have? A new outlook in 30 minutes, Brett, from the Storm Prediction Center?
Yeah, it should be. Let's see here. Hearing some rain here now.
That's what I was just.
Yeah, there should be a new day 1 here soon, I think.
Yeah, it's in 30 minutes. 13Z.
So, yep. And we'll post if they upgrade. We'll post on social medias. If they do, it wouldn't shock me, especially with this new run. What's interesting about this new run too, and I think you kind of showed it a little bit, is just the secondary wave too. It's almost evolving into 2 waves. And along the Ohio River, I think that's an area too that needs to be watched. If you remember, there was an event several weeks ago where we kind of had an AM wave and the PM wave that didn't do a whole lot around here, but it did across southern Indiana and the Ohio River. There were multiple tornadoes down there, and I think that is certainly at play again with this particular event, and just in terms of the southern Indiana being in a pretty decent risk, as well as central Indiana.
I'm going to show the 15-minute HRRR, Brett, to kind of illustrate the cellular nature a little bit better of the storms. But yeah, as you can see here, some thunderstorms develop as early as 3 o'clock. And then some more organized activity closer to 6 p.m. you can kind of see develops here from Muncie to Indy. This is valid right here at about 7:30 tonight. And then you can kind of see that secondary threat that we talked about here. This is 9:30 tonight from Columbus to Indy to down to Evansville. Based on at least this run, we'll have to see if there's continuing support on future runs here. But nonetheless, the significant tornado parameter very aggressive here. Very aggressive. I'd be curious, Brett, if we could pull up a SKU-T for 7 p.m. tonight across central Indiana yet.
Let me pull one up. 7 p.m.?
Yeah, on that new run.
I'll go around Johnson County. I don't know if I should show this.
I have an idea of what it's going to be, but
I'll pull it up.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking it was going to say.
So, and the reason for this is because the main storm development, again, you get a little bit of some convection out ahead. We'll have to watch that, because if that blows up too much, then that could limit the second wave. So it's not a slam dunk, but if you can delay this main storm activity more towards the late evening hours or early evening hours, I should say, 5, 6 o'clock, that just gives more time for destabilization. And this particular sounding with the wind shear, these are your wind barbs. And so your wind at the surface is out of the south-southwest. and then your winds aloft are more out of the west southwest, and so it's a good turning of the winds, which would amplify rotation in storms. This would be a very concerning look if it were to verify.
Can you go, Brett? Can you go to that Indiana view and show the dew points with the wind barbs? I'm curious to see if it's higher with its moisture return or kind of what it's doing there.
Yeah.
So that the tip of that dew point right there, where that stretches up into Indy, those areas always interest me. Where the kind of the tip of that moisture is at its maximum, or gets some little bit, almost looks like it's doing a little bit of pooling there of moisture.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, it's. I think the takeaway is that this run doesn't seem to be unreasonable with its dew point projections, its energy. I'm not seeing anything that's too far crazy with dew points all the way up into Michigan or something. Sometimes the model just gets to be a little bit too much, but I don't think that. I'm also not saying that the PDS tornado sounding we just saw is something to sound the alarm on, and PDS, what it stands for is a particularly dangerous situation. That's the kind of the way to really up the verbiage and the awareness from the Storm Prediction Center of the National Weather Service. It's been that way for many years. I'm not saying I agree or disagree right now. I'm just saying that, this run of the HRRR, can you go to the Cape real quick? Doesn't seem to be a run that's, off the rails or making no sense.
And one more thing, real quick, before I change this, that I noticed. This is later in the evening, so the storms are kind of already working through the I-70 corridor. Look at the wind change. You can see a clear, right through Bloomington, a clear divergence in the winds. Southerly winds here, northwesterly winds here. To me, this turning of the winds is, again, concerning. That would increase the rotation and the tornado threat.
Which is why we showed that area earlier, guys, that we circled. I really think that that's the area to watch right now. I'm going to be curious to see what the 9 a.m. SPC does, and I say that because with the rapid dry slot moving in and the rapid clearing out, if that wasn't on satellite right now, this would be a totally different live. We'd be really taking this thing down and saying this is not going to materialize. It's too cloudy. The morning wave's going to mess this up. But there is a clear and present clearing with a rapid insertion of dry air that's going to allow for destabilization, I think, to occur very quickly this afternoon. I don't see right now a reason for that to not pan out, Brett.
Yeah, I would agree. And again, this new run of the HRRR very aggressive with instability rebuilding. Even if this is too aggressive, even if instead of 3,000 to 4,000 joules per kilogram of CAPE here, even if we're 2,000 to 3,000, that's still enough. That's still plenty of instability to tap into as we work into this afternoon.
Brett, is there any cap that develops between the waves at all? As this first one moves out and the second one's moving in, do we have any cap at all to keep convection from coming?
Here, doesn't look like it. That would be a concern.
Yeah.
Because if you look at this particular sounding, there's not really a cap there.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be. Let me go more towards 1 o'clock. Yeah. So there's not. So that could be a potential risk that we need to watch, because if we're not capped at all, then that would potentially lead to what I would refer to as crapvection, as convection that basically limits the severe weather threat later on. So it would actually, if you don't want severe weather, which I'm assuming most people do not, if you are hoping that it busts and it doesn't happen, what you want to see is our storms develop at 1, 2 o'clock out ahead of this main wave. That would limit the ability for the atmosphere to then recover additionally with the last wave late this afternoon and evening.
So Again, just want to turn your attention here real quick. What we're going to talk about one more time is, I've got the satellite on, is what we're seeing with the current nowcast situation. Just what is the weather currently doing? That clearing that you see in eastern Iowa and eastern Missouri and eastern Arkansas is where, sorry, I just had a brain fart there. I've lost my mind, Brett. Anyways, sorry. This is where the clearing's working in, and there's a lot of momentum. There's a lot of mixing of the air. You can even see the gravity waves ongoing here. It's just showing a lot of energy clearing this out. That's the jet getting going, and there's evidence of that with the water vapor imagery. That is I tell you what, Brett. This is what you would see on the morning of big severe weather evenings.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you see this on satellite in the morning, that's an indication of we're going to be able to easily destabilize by noon or 1 o'clock again.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to watch is if any of the dry air can initially seep a little bit down into the mid to low levels of the atmosphere, it could maybe limit some of that convection between waves a little bit. Obviously, you don't really, if you're looking for severe weather, you don't really want that to seep all the way down to the surface because you need the moisture at the surface to rise the air eventually. But yeah, I think this dry punch can really set the stage for this evening. I think ultimately the things we just have to keep an eye on are just any lingering convection that could limit our sunshine early this afternoon. I think that's the main risk that we have to watch. Aside from that, we've got a strong wind, strong low level jet that will help amp these storms up. We've got plenty of instability and moisture to work with. So I think it's game on.
Let's show this, and then we'll if you want, while I'm getting this ready, Brett, let's get a few questions lined up. I'm going to show this real quick. Okay. Make sure I have. If there's an area that I would like to watch for the next update from the Storm Prediction Center for whether it's an upgrade to a moderate and or an increase in the risk for tornadoes. If there's an area based on the analysis we just gave, it's probably going to be right in here. If you're across central Indiana to Muncie, Indy, Bloomington, Columbus, Cincinnati, Columbus, Ohio, even, this area here is one I would be particularly concerned with for the enhanced risk for tornadoes tonight. Again, what I'll do now is I'll change the color. I think, by 3, 4, 5 o'clock, there can be some storm activity. Now, the latest HRRR would say, okay, maybe it's more like 5, 6, and 7 o'clock for where these storms can develop and move into the area, perhaps most conducive for tornadoes and large hail, which is where I'm drawing. So just trying to make this as simple for you as I can. Now, with that said, real quick, guys, we do have a round of storms. It's decaying. It's a decaying line of storms, but there is a decaying line of thunderstorms moving in right now across Illinois. You can see it right here. I'll go to the MRMS real quick just to give you so you can see the whole view here. But there is a line of thunderstorms moving in, and
that was fun.
Yeah, that was weird. That is going to at least bring some rain and some thunder and some lightning, maybe a gust of wind or something. I think it's east of Indy, central Indiana. I think it's east of the area by about 11:30. I think it's here by about 12:30, and I think we're working in sunshine right behind it by about 1 o'clock. So that's the idea here. If you see rain coming in, it doesn't mean the severe threat is off, based on the satellite analysis we've given you this morning. So with that said, what do we have for questions, Brett?
Yeah, this was a good one. Let me go back to the chat here. Whether it was going to be isolated supercells or more of a line of storms this afternoon and evening.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that right now it's a mix of both, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know if you would agree, but I think that it is a mix of both.
Yeah, I think it's not a squall line. It's not like this line. But I think what could end up happening is, especially further in the evening that you go, is some of these supercells will begin to kind of merge into a little bit more of these multi-cell lines, but it won't necessarily be a big, long, consistent line like what we're seeing this morning.
Yep.
I would say the chances for more of a line are probably higher the further south you go. As we work more into the evening, they'll have the tendency to congeal into northern Kentucky, probably, and maybe Ohio. Let's
Let's
see.
see. What else do we got, Brett? There's one. When
Um,
will it be over Bloomington? Great question, Wendy. I think right now, probably Bloomington, Indiana. If I'm assuming that's where you're talking about. Um, I think right now you're in that probably 3 to 7 p.m. window is a good window for Bloomington,
yeah,
give or take.
yep, I would agree. Let's see. So there was one. If it came around 4 p.m., let's do this one. International flight out of India at 4:50. Trying to decide if I should take alternative flights. That's a good
I
question.
mean, odds are yes.
Yeah, you're going to have storms around.
Yeah.
Also, kind of depends on which direction you're going, because if you're going northwest, you're probably better off than going south.
Yep.
So yeah, probably going to have storms around. Whether it's right over the airport at 4:50, no way to know for sure, but certainly a concern.
Yep. I again continue. Someone just asked. I hit the wrong comment. If we see sunshine, is that bad? Yeah. I mean, we don't want to. I mean, if you don't want severe weather, you don't want to see a lot of sunshine. Um,
Somebody earlier asked a question or made the point that it is voting day. Primary elections are today, and so people will be trying to be outside and in line and voting and whatnot. So definitely be keeping an eye on the radar. Would try to get that. Your best time to go vote would probably be between noon and 3. That's going to be your best window to not have issues.
Mr. Grant from YouTube says, any idea when this would be hitting Kokomo, Indiana? I only asked because of school pickup. Now, right now, we're between 3 to 7 p.m. right now. We need to see another run of that HRRR for timing. It was a little later this run, but earlier on different runs. So we're going to go 3 to 7 right now from west to east is probably the best idea, for that currently. I'll tell you what, Brett, real quick, while I see some of these questions coming in, what I'm noticing here, just looking at Clarity's radar, I'm not seeing any development of rain or storms in the dry slot.
Yeah.
If I were seeing
I-
rain or storm development over Missouri, I would say, okay, the severe threat's going down, but I'm not seeing that right now either.
So a lot of morning and evening setups around here tend to trend downward rather than upward. Thoughts on today of which is more likely? I think today, and with the risks having been mentioned, that the risk is to trend more upward because of the lack of convection we are seeing and the potential clearing. Now, always when you have AM storms, there's always a risk. There's always the potential that things can get screwed up, but I would say today it is a better setup than in times past. So
Roz Moore says, will you be live if it's severe in Indiana? Yep, we will. We will certainly be live covering that this evening just to keep you all posted as well. So,
alrighty.
Hey, look at that. There's a nice comment. We appreciate you guys sharing your updates. Jennifer, we appreciate that. We would love if you all would share this to your pages and tag your friends, um, and let folks know of the updates and the things coming in from BAM to you all. So that would be helpful if you could share that. Brett's got the Storm Cancer 5K pulled up.
Yes.
That's June 2nd.
June 2nd. So we're less than a month away. This is the price of admission today, is to tag a friend that likes to run 5Ks, and get them to sign up for that. There should be a link that's pinned in the comments here. We are trying to get to $30,000 to raise money, all of it going to research for pediatric brain cancer, working specifically with the Jessen family who lost their daughter Addie a couple of years ago to this terrible disease. So again, we're trying to get to 30,000. We're trying to get 500 people to join. You can walk too. If you're not a runner, I'm not a runner. You can walk. So walk, run, or just come hang out, meet us. Again, if you haven't heard, Michael is running in the Thor costume. We're going to put him in a wig and all that fun stuff. Maybe if we hit our goal, you can put me in something fun. I'm not going to be running. I'm going to be helping direct and manage and whatnot. But I would be willing to dress up in something weird if anybody has any suggestions.
A Schnumpfen costume?
No, and we're not gonna explain that to folks.
Okay, how about a cow costume?
I will wear a cow costume. Yeah. I have a, let's see. Let me close this real quick. I've got a little cow hanging up behind me. See him?
He does. Yeah, he does have a cow.
Big fan of cows. So just a weird thing that we have here. So
oh, goodness.
We like to have fun, right? Yeah. We like to have fun. A
do.
T-Rex, that's an inflatable unicorn. These are all great. Cow. Okay.
Now, all of you making suggestions, you need to donate.
Yes, donate. We need to get to that 30,000. If you're a business, you want to sponsor, we'll give you a shout out if you do. I think it's a gold or a platinum sponsor. So we definitely want to get to that number and get as many registrants as we can possibly get.
Awesome, guys. Great participation. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for commenting today. We will be back. Look for a post from us here in probably about 30 minutes with some updated risk maps and timing. And then pending that, I will say if we see some significant increases there, we may come back live in a half an hour for the heck of it, just to update you all. And then we'll come on around, about 1 o'clock today, Brett, for the next update?
About 1, and then probably once severe weather gets going, 4 or 5 this afternoon.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thanks, Brett.
Yep.